Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. Today I'd like to talk about some books I've read in April and March. I hope you enjoy. So in this video I'd like to revisit some books I've read in March and April. This won't be long, I hope it won't be long. I will not talk too much about them because some of the books I'll show you here I have already filmed a review or a book talk or a book reaction, so I'll try to focus more on the books I haven't talked about in other videos. The first book I'd like to talk about is the book 5 of the Wheel Time series. It's called The Fires of Heaven. I read this book in March. I enjoyed this book, but I'd like to address some things I'm not enjoying so much so far in the series. Well, the first book was really good and the second book was epic. But after the second book, the third, the fourth, and this fifth book, I'm tired of some things on them. For example, I'm tired of reading Robert Jordan comparing men and women. It is like, okay, I got it. Men are like this, women are like that. All the time he does that and it's tiresome, you know. But I'm still engaged with this story, especially with some characters. The main character lost me completely, but one good thing about this series is the amount of interesting characters. So even when you can't deal with a certain character and his actions, you have many other characters to focus on. So I'll definitely continue reading. I'll read this entire series, but I have this concern about the way Robert Jordan is representing men and women. My main concern is that he puts men and women in opposite sides, and I don't think this is a good approach, you know. It's too simplistic. The next book I'd like to talk about is The Red and the Black by Sthendal. This is one of the best books I read this year and probably the best books I read my entire life. Julian Sorel is an amazing character. I'll try to find a really beautiful French copy of this book, and it will take me a lot of time to read it in French, but I'll definitely try because I'm in love with this book, so I really recommend it. Next I read Born a Crime. I've talked about this book in a previous video, so I will just state here that it is a really nice book about his story, his childhood, growing up in South Africa, and I do recommend it. I've read A Traveler in Time. Here I have this nice Folio Society edition. This is like a historical fiction of a girl who travels in time. She goes back to the Elizabethan era in England, and during a really complicated moment in English history, when Mary, Queen of Scots, was imprisoned. My complaint here is that the character, she doesn't like participate in the plot. She just watches things, so it's a little boring because of that. But this edition here is really beautiful, and one of the main qualities of the narrative here is that the author, she captures the countryside in English, but it's not one of my favorites, definitely not. The next book I've read is this little Everyman's Library Children's Collection edition of The Happy Prince and Other Tales by Oscar Wilde. This was the first book I read by Oscar Wilde, and I'm really impressed by him, and I look forward to reading more books written by him because these stories here are lovely. These editions are really inexpensive, especially if you consider the materials they use, like hardcovers, cloth bound, sewed bindings, and acid-free paper. Next I read Anne of Green Gables, and I have a full review here because I was like crazy, you know, rainbows in the sky, you know. I was so happy after reading this book, and after that I listened to two audiobooks in the series, in the Anne of Green Gables series. I listened to Anne of Avonlea and Anne of the Island. They're both nice books, but I must confess that I prefer Anne as a child instead of Anne as a teenager or Anne as a young lady. Especially Anne as a young lady in Anne of the Island, I was a little disappointed with her. I would definitely continue reading these stories because I'm really engaged with the characters, but I must confess that The second and the third book, they are not as good as the first one. They don't have the magic I found in Queen Gables. Next, I read Nevernight by J. Kristoff. This is like a recent release in comparison to the other books I've read, and the beginning was so interesting and strong. I really enjoyed the way J. Kristoff started this book. So I had high expectations. One of the main things I enjoy here was the way he described completely different scenes using almost the same words. So this was like a big thumbs up. But after that, after the middle of the book, I didn't enjoy it. It became like cliche, this queue of assassins and the romance undeveloped. It started so well and I thought, wow, this book will be mind-blowing. But after a strong beginning, it didn't impress me, so I won't continue reading the series. Next, I read The Princess and the Goblin by George MacDonald, another Folio Society edition. I filmed an overview if you want to know more about this edition here. It is illustrated and really beautiful, and the story is really pleasant. It's interesting, a little outdated, but I want to read more George MacDonald books because I know he influenced a lot some amazing writers like C.S. Lewis and Tolkien. So I must read other works by him, and I enjoyed this book, and it is really easy to see how his goblins influenced Tolkien, for example. It was really interesting to read that. Next, Assassin's Apprentice. I was really engaged with the main character, with the narrator of this book, and I look forward to continue reading the series. If you want a really nice fantasy series with real feelings, you should consider reading this one. In April, I also listened to The Last Kingdom as an audiobook by Bernard Cornwell. This was the first book of the Saxon Chronicles, and I look forward to continue reading this series because I really enjoy it. This was a reread, and the narrator of this book was Jonathan Gables. This narrator was awesome, and I look forward to continue listening to the Saxon Chronicles in audiobook format. And finally, the last book I read in April was A Tale of Two Cities, and this book became one of my favorite books of all times. I'm in love with Charles Dickens, and I look forward to reading more books by him. This is a story during the French Revolution, and it deals with facts that are happening in London and in Paris, and I look forward to reading more Dickens books. I really love this one. So these were the books I read in April and March, and I really wanted to revisit them. So let me know your opinions in the comment section. See ya, and thanks for watching.